Hi everybody, welcome back. This is Sparks Comics here. Today I am going to do a review of an issue that came out last week. The issue I'm looking at doing is Wynd number 3. And so on my Instagram I did a review of Wynd number 1 and 2. So go check it out at Sparks Comics on Instagram. Scroll back a little ways and you'll find my review for Wynd number 1 and Wynd number 2 posted together. So Wynd number 3 came out last week, and here's cover A for Wynd number 3. The cover was done by the artist for this book, Michael Dialynas, and I probably just butchered that and I apologize. But it's a great cover. We are seeing two of our main characters here, looking, skulls all around them, something, mysterious going on. Something cool about this book is the genre that it's set in is a fantasy genre. And so, just to give you a backstory for myself, I've always been really interested in the fantasy genre, and that started out with books before I got into comics. So, one of my favorite authors is Brandon Sanderson, who I discovered from reading the Wheel of Time series. He ended up finishing that series up when Robert Jordan died, and so I just kind of vaulted into his work after that. And so the Stormlight Archives are one of the big ones that I've been loving to read, and another one of that comes out in the fall. Mistborn series was excellent, and so I was really into the fantasy genre. So now that I've been really stepping back and trying to pick up more and more titles that are not Marvel titles, I've been really tending to lean towards those types of titles. One of the big ones that I had been reading for a while, still reading, Die from Image Comics. Been great, fits that fantasy genre, has been amazing. Another indie title that I've loved, and also from Boom Studios, has been Something is Killing the Children, and I really need to do a full review on that for you guys because I love that series. So when Wynd came out and I saw a preview of it in the end of Something's Killing the Children number 7, I knew this is something I gotta see what's going on, find out what's happening, and find out if if this is a story for me. And so I just want to show you some of the interior art. So the story starts out, and Wynd and Oakley are looking. They're going through the pipes trying to find this witch that supposedly lives down there and is maybe able to cure Wynd of the weird blood, and get the weird out of the blood. And so that's how the story starts out. Lots of dark scenes to begin with because we're in the pipes, but they come across on this beautiful art on the wall inside the pipes that says, it's just a compass northeast southwest. But what it's really hinting at there is the story that we're going to find out a little bit later on in this about the history of the weird blood. And so they find this mysterious hooded guide that takes them to where the witch is. And now, while they're doing that, he tells the story behind the north, south, west, and east, and it's all from the winds. So this art here is just beautiful. We see the northeast, south, and west winds, and they're kind of character representations. It tells the story about the men who would travel to Esariel and back to their people, and the winds really tried to convince the men to essentially ascend with them and receive their gifts of flight and mastery over the air, and to be able to come home to the Winds. And the men thought, no, we need to explore, we need to see more of the world. And so while that was happening, the god of the Wildwood unleashed wrath upon the world and corrupted things and spawned these monstrous children. And we see that happening here. And so eventually what happened was that they kind of destroyed the world. The Winds end up going missing, likely killed by these monsters. And the last men end up back at Esriel, and they build Pipetown. And so Pipetown is where everyone is, kind of the main location of the story. And so that is why, you know, this whole weird blood issue exists, and kind of the background of that. And so it's really cool that we get that in here. This issue was extra big compared to the other issues we've seen so far. But I just want to keep like pointing out how good the art is in this. It's perfect for depicting what needs to be depicted in here. You know, we get cool details, and so the kind of the witch that they find really is kind of looks like she's supposed to be the doctor, kind of a doctor for the weird blood, and she's doing blood transfusions. And so when she starts to look at Wynd's blood to kind of detect what type of weird blood he has, she just kind of is like, this is impossible. And we don't know what isn't possible, what it is, because the villain of the story shows up. So the Bandaged Man appears, and all of the depictions of the Bandaged Man are just phenomenal. I really want to know more about him and, you know, how he became the Bandaged Man, but I'm cool with how it is right now. The mystery behind him, we've got 2 more issues to hopefully explain the Bandaged Man and, you know, give us some insight as to why he hunts down the weird blood and how he can smell them. Is the Bandaged Man a weird blood himself? Seems like he has some magical abilities, and maybe the bandages are covering up his weird blood symptoms. I don't know. So he shows up and starts killing all of the weird blood with his men, and he finds the blood sample of Wynd, and it's not good. He decides he's got to find Wynd and introduce himself personally. And so they escape out of the pipes, back up to the city, come across a guard, and the guard, you know, does what he's trying to do, tries to capture them, and they get some protection. And I'm blanking on his name. The guy that is at the restaurant working with them doesn't know that Wynd is a weird blood, but he decides, screw it, I am protecting him. He's a good kid. I'm not letting any harm come to him. You know, he's innocent. They get back to the restaurant to the mom and find that she is with the gardener that Wynd totally has a crush on, and the son of the, I think he's the emperor, the king, something like that. So the guy that's going to be inheriting the throne, or supposed to be inheriting the throne soon. And it looks like she's trying to get them both out of town. So some plot is going on there within the royalty. And his first response upon seeing Wynd show up is, let's just kill them. They're witnesses to us getting out of here. And so, you know, kind of knee-jerk reaction, and he's just scared of what's going on. Wynd has no idea who he is, but does recognize the gardener, which is just throws off the king's son, because he's like, really? You know him, not me? What the hell, man? And so they're about to leave, and then, unfortunately, the bandaged man shows up again. And I'm assuming he just has the scent. I'm not sure. There's a talk. Everything's going, seeming like maybe he just is there to get drinks, even though the whole time I was reading it, I was like, I know he's coming for them. He knows what's going on, and they try to make their escape while he's distracted. And I don't want to spoil the very last page, kind of giving you the whole story, but the last page just caught me by surprise. Did not expect it to happen. But this whole issue, I was on kind of the edge of my seat reading it, and I like lots of things about this. You know, hearing the history behind the weird blood, and you know how man decided to barricade themselves into these cities, and seeing, you know, some character growth on the parts of both of them, seeing some, not really too much growth from Gardner and the King's Son, but seeing more of them, seeing their story move a little bit further was very good, and seeing more of the bandaged man and some action was really cool. And so honestly, you know, the first issue, didn't really know a whole lot of what was going on yet, and so that one I was leaning more on like a 3 out of 5 because there wasn't a lot, but I knew the story was gonna pick up. This issue here is where the story has picked up, has me hooked 100%. And with this one, I found out there's only going to be 5 issues for the story, so it's just a short story. And now I'm really bummed about that because I was hoping that we'd get a lot of this story, so you keep progressing, but it's not happening. We're going to have 5 issues. I think they're going to jam-pack a lot into those 5 issues. I give issue 3 a 5 out of 5 because of the amount of story progression we got out of this one. And so, really, $5 book. Probably 1.5 times the size of a normal book, maybe. So well worth the cost associated with it. And I love the back of all of the issues because this little feather thing here is going on. If you read issue 1, you know why the feathers are important. But I will say that thing hasn't happened. And I think it's just something that Wynd is so afraid will happen because he is a weird blood. And so I think it's going to happen by the end of issue 5. Wynd's gonna access his weird blood power. And we'll see some awesome fight between this powered weird Wynd versus the bandaged man. I'm hoping that happens, but who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen? James Tynion is the writer on this, and he's been doing an excellent job with it. I've loved every minute of reading this series so far. And since I've read issue 1 and 2 and enjoyed them so much, when I put a pre-order in, I requested that I get the 1 in 25 Peach Momoko variant for this cover, or for this book. and we see a pretty cool shot of Wynd holding a feather with his cloak. And I love Peach Momoko's art. Occasionally there's some that I'm not a fan of just because some of them look silly, particularly the Null cover. The tongue just, I don't know. It didn't work for me. But overall, her process, I love the whole aesthetic that it puts off. So I knew I had to pick it up for this one, and I feel good that this was the one that I got a Peach cover for. One, because of all the stuff that happens in this issue, but two, this was a really cool cover. So overall, I mean, the art on this, phenomenal. It fits this style. I like that the style is different when they're talking about the history. We see a different style going on there. And normally art doesn't, fully draw me in for a book. I'm there for the story, or on some cases the character. Venom, Spider-Man are the two big characters, Ghost Spider or Spider-Gwen, another character that pulls me into a book. But for the indie titles, it's always a new story, new characters. So the character's not really drawing me in. It's the overall story. And so good art is a bonus for me. I've looked at some books and just said, I can't read this because the art is just not a style that I want to look at. This style works perfectly with the fantasy genre. So honestly, I have to give the art a 5 out of 5. The story probably more 4.5 out of 5. But overall, I'm giving this issue for Wynd number 3 a 5 out of 5. It's just phenomenal. So that being said, this video is coming out on New Comic Book Day. The week after that came out, so hopefully you guys have seen my spoiler tags and not watched it if you haven't read that. But if you have read that and have watched through all of this, let me know what you think in the comments below about Wynd number 3, or even just the series in general. I'd love to talk about this issue more with you guys. And if you found this video and my channel for the first time, please subscribe and give the video a like. Thank you guys for watching. Collect what you love, because that's what makes it all worth it. And read some real good stories like this one. Thanks, guys.